It's Amber from burnedinteacher.com. Hey, Burned In Teachers, it's Amber from burnedinteacher.com, and I'm going live both in my Burned In Teacher Facebook group above and here on my computer in YouTube Live. So today I want to talk to you about the 4 steps you can take to take control of your trauma, your drama, or your burnout, and the wisdom to know the difference. So I'm going to be referring to the Burned In Teacher podcast episode that went live yesterday, all about trauma versus drama and how I'm using the Serenity Prayer in my own life to help to take control of those things that are sometimes controlling me. And I'll share a little bit about that here in a second. So I want to first of all let you know I'm going to define some of these words that I outlined yesterday in the Burned In Teacher podcast episode, but I have them in a specific order today. And I am going to look over here to my right because I want to make sure that I define them correctly. So first of all, the first step is being able to define what the difference is between trauma and drama. So trauma is an experience that produces psychological injury or pain. I think we all as adults can probably understand the difference between trauma and drama, but I really like these 2 definitions because it helps to set the differences in stone. So drama is any situation or series of events having vivid, emotional, conflicting, or striking interests or results. So in my opinion, when I look at these 2 things, the drama is those situations of interest that you may not at first have a choice of whether or not you're participating in that drama, but you do have a choice on whether or not you decide to continue to be involved in it. And the trauma, on the other hand, is obviously a situation where you didn't have a choice. This thing happened around you or to you, and you didn't have a choice. It just happened. So the next thing I want to talk about really quickly as I take you through these 4 steps is the definition of mental strength. And I'm going to quote Amy Morin from her book, which is one of my favorites. I recommend it to every teacher I work with. It's 13 Things Mentally Strong People Don't Do. So she says that there's a 3-prong approach to really understanding and tackling mental strength and bringing more of that strength into your life. The first thing is to identify irrational thoughts and replace them with more realistic thoughts. The second thing is behaving in a positive manner despite your circumstances, because you ultimately can't control other people and the decisions that they're making. And the third one is controlling your emotions so your emotions don't control you. This one especially sticks with me because if you know me personally, I'm a highly emotionally charged human being. And I have struggled for years, my whole life, with really getting control of my emotions because I have in the past had a pattern of letting my emotions control me. And that led to a lot of drama in my life that until recently, in the past 5 years, I thought was everybody else's fault. Everybody else was the jerk. Everybody else was making my life hard. But when I reflect back on my patterns, and I'll talk about that here in a second, I realized that a lot of the drama that I was dealing with was self-imposed. It was self-inflicted. Now, I was not always the cause, but I sometimes added the fuel to the fire that I needed to keep burning. And eventually, guess what? Burning me out of a certain situation. So this is the next thing I want to talk about is the Serenity Prayer that if you have been involved in the Burned In Teacher Facebook group for quite some time, you might remember me actually sharing the Serenity Prayer a few weeks ago when I talked about my extreme fear of flying, my irrational fear of flying. All right. So that really goes back to number 1. The first prong that Amy Morin talked about was identifying irrational thoughts. I have irrational thoughts when I'm on an airplane. So I was looking up ways that I could really solve this problem for myself and take control over this drama that I cause. And I don't make huge scenes on a plane or anything like that, but I'm clearly very, very highly emotional and charged. And so I came across the Serenity Prayer, and it goes like this. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things that I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And what I learned from my research is that it's not just a prayer for addicts. Of course, Alcoholics Anonymous has kind of brought that in as their official prayer, but it's excellent for really keeping your mind focused on what you can and can't control. And so serenity is that calm, that serene, that tranquil feeling. If you're not allowing yourself to have the time to be calm and tranquil, enough to focus on the things you can and cannot change moving forward in your life, then that has to be one of your steps too. It doesn't have to be hours. It can be 5 minutes to sit down, write down some things that you're grateful for, some things that are challenging you maybe, and then those next action steps, which again, we're going to get to here in just a second. In fact, we're going to do it right now. So when you give yourself the time to be serene, to really focus in on what it is that you can and can't control, this is where the difference in those people who are going to get out of burnout and those people who in fact are going to burnout, this is where that difference lies. This is where the rubber meets the road. Number one, listing all of the things that are stressors in your life, both personally and professionally. Making a list of those stressors, those things that are really causing you to feel drama, to feel that stress, to feel that overwhelm, to feel that apathy, that negativity. Write them all down. And then you're going to label them with 2 things. The first thing is label them as drama or trauma. Because drama is something you can choose to take control of or not take part in. If it's a situation caused by trauma, if it's a feeling caused by trauma, then you need to take some serious time out and focus on your mental health. Because trauma, undealt with, not dealt with, can cause a domino effect of other problems in your life. I know it for a fact. There are multiple things that have happened in my life that were traumatic, and I didn't talk to anybody about them. I cried to my husband. I, took deep breaths. I would take a hot shower if I was feeling especially charged in some way. But it always came back to that traumatic experience, and I should have sought professional help, and I didn't. And because of that, there were other dramatic things that happened in my life because those emotions eventually rear their ugly heads, and they do cause, again, those domino effects in other pieces of your life. So the next part is then, so after you list all of your stressors, all of the things that are really challenging you and things that are stressing you out and overwhelming you, you're listing them as either drama or trauma, okay? And I just defined those a minute ago. The next thing that you're going to label them as is as something you can control, something you can't control, okay? Those things you can't control are things that involve other people's decisions, their disposition, their personality, those things that make them them. You cannot change other people, including your students. Your disposition, and I'm going to talk about disposition at the very end here, your disposition can affect other people's dispositions, but that all starts with you thinking about, okay, what can I control in myself, in my own life, in my own practices, in my own procedures, in my own personal and professional life that could maybe have some residual effects on other pieces of my life. Then it's time to list some possible solutions to the things that you can control. This is where the big changes happen, and this is where it gets really hard. Because after you list those possible solutions, you can't just sit there. You have to take action. And this is where vulnerability comes into play. Vulnerability means you're open to moral attack, criticism, or temptation of some sort. And this is where it's really hard. Change is hard. Having tough conversations is really hard. But you have to have courage. You have to have the quality or state of mind to take a risk. And that's what enables a person to face difficulty. So that's how vulnerability and courage really go really well together. Vulnerability is being open to criticism. But because you can't control what other people think, say, or believe, it is up to you to decide what is best for you in this moment, in this time in your life, what it is that you need to do to feel more fulfilled, happier, and to feel like you are really doing the best that you can with this one life that we have. And the next part is resilience. We are a resilient animal. It's our ability to come back from illness, from depression, from burnout, from trauma, from drama. It's that ability. I loved this in the at dictionary.com where I found this. They said it's like buoyancy. And I love that because it's about floating on top of it all. It's about realizing that having the serenity to accept the things you can't change, and the courage to change the things that you can, and the wisdom to know the difference. That's what it's all about. So that resilience, that ability to recover, then affects your disposition, because if you believe you are in control, that is true burn in, my friends. And by in control, that doesn't mean believing you can control every situation that you're ever in and control everybody you come into contact with, and that you're never going to face hardship again. That's not what that means. It's about controlling your behavior, your thoughts, your emotions, and making sure that you are wearing a disposition. I call it teacher brand, that inspires other people to be their best, because no matter what, you are going to be your best. All right. So that taking action is all about those hard conversations. It's about taking risks. It's about doing things you've never done before, knocking on people's doors that you've never knocked on before. It's about making changes, and change is hard. It could be a little change. It could be a big change. I've made both in my life, and I'm better for it. Have I made mistakes? Absolutely. But I know that my life is a domino effect of decisions that I make and what I decide that I can take control of. And most of it has to do with me and how I behave, think, and feel. Getting a foot massage, going for a walk or a run, burning essential oils is only going to take you so far. If you don't take these 4 steps to take control of your drama, your trauma, or your burnout, you are destined to do the same thing over and over and over again. And therefore, there will be no changes in your life. So I hope this was helpful. I'd love for you to drop a comment below. Go to the Burned In Teacher Facebook group, join, and tell us your story. Help us to know what we can do to support you in your journey out of burnout. Burn on, everybody.